welcome everybody from Vanderbilt and a soggy Nashville today in what we might call spring break, though we're not really having a normal spring break this year because of COVID. Things are a bit compressed, but the students did have the day off today, and we're participating in something we call Owen Impact Day. So the morning was spent with our Center for Social Ventures, working with a number of local non-for-profits here in town on very specific projects. And so we had a whole group of students here this morning in the building working on those projects. And then this afternoon, we've turned to this really exciting set of events and sessions on sustainability. And we started off with Professors Cohen and Vandenberg, really setting the stage for our discussion this afternoon. And my big takeaway from their 30 minutes was just how this topic has exploded in interest, within both the law and business school. And for those of you alum who remember taking courses from Professor Cohen, he was really teaching this subject long before it was a popular subject at all. Back in the 90s, both him and Mike Vandenberg were really pioneers and partnered in many ways, still teach a course together. But back in the 90s, that class might have 15 students in it. Was not a particularly popular class. And the interest among our current students has really exploded. I spoke recently in Mark's class, and that class had broken into 2 sections and was approaching 100 students now. So it has really moved to the front consciousness of students, as it has moved to the front consciousness of business executives all over the world. And that's really what we're talking about today, thinking about innovating in the energy mix. And we really have a pair of sessions. So this first session, we're really looking at this issue from the context of companies and companies making decisions about their energy solutions and their mix. And then if you are interested, stay on at the 2:00 hour. We'll be coming back with a session to look more at the broader context at a region. So as MK said at the onset, we recommend you watching this in gallery view. If you move up to the upper right-hand side of your screen, you can pick view and gallery view. You don't have to, but we think we've designed it to operate best in that mode to be able to really see the panelists. And I have a fantastic set of panelists today. Starting with Matt Beasley. Matt is the Chief Commercial Officer of Silicon Ranch, a very interesting company that is long past a startup, one that's growing very, very quickly. And Matt will be telling you a little bit about what they're doing as really a provider of renewable energy to many corporate customers. With Matt, we have Eric Kopstein. Eric is the Vice Chancellor for Administration at Vanderbilt. And for those of you in the corporate world, that roughly translates, Eric might cringe, but I would call him the COO of Vanderbilt in many ways, though we just recently in a faculty and staff forum awarded him the honorary title of Mayor of Vanderbilt because the last year operating in COVID has required many mayoral kinds of decisions to be made on campus, and Eric was really on the tip of the spear for all of that when we think about our facilities, how we operate, our safety, all those kinds of things are things that roll up to Eric. Ashley Likens is also with us. She's the head of North American Sustainability for Nike. And of course, Nike is a longtime leader in this space, and one that many companies and individuals, students of ours, study and wish to emulate. And we're really excited to have Ashley here to share her perspective from Nike. And then finally, Aaron Nelda. Aaron is the Senior Vice President of Transmission and Power Supply at TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority. I got to tell you, Aaron, I was doing some hiking last week around over by the Caney Fork, over by one of those amazing dams that you guys operate over there, generating hydropower, and was thinking about this panel this week. Of course, for folks in our region, TVA plays a major role in that delivery of energy and what that means for customers in this region. So a great panel to come in and really dissect this topic. And I'm going to start talking a little bit with Ashley. I would love to have Ashley describe a little bit of her role. As as we go through each panelist, I'm going to have them introduce themselves a little bit as part of their subjects. So, Ashley, I want you to tell us and the audience a little bit about your role in sustainability, but then in particular, tell us about Nike's 2025 purpose targets. So, Ashley.
Great. Sorry, I'm dealing with two technical issues on sound. So, but I'm excited to be here. And as you mentioned, I do currently lead the North America sustainability agenda for Nike. My role is really to be the champion for sustainable business growth in our largest geography and help us move to a zero carbon, zero waste future. I'll also say I am a proud Owen alum. So I graduated in 2009. So it's great to be back with some of you. So our 2025 purpose targets, really excited about those. We just published them last week. It's a focus on people, planet, and play. So we announced 29 targets within these areas, and it's focused on specific actions around inclusion, equity, getting kids active through play and sport, as well as fighting climate change. So specific areas of carbon, wastewater, and chemistry detailed in the report. Since we're talking about energy today, I'll focus in on carbon. Our commitments are really around what we make, how we make it, and how we operate. So a lot of content around how we are sourcing and innovating environmentally friendly materials in our products, reducing our energy use across the value chain, and as well as our waste reduction as well. We speak very detailed around how we're driving energy efficiency within our operations, including that renewable energy use and collaboration to create better market conditions for clean energy. I think that's a really important point that hopefully we'll get to as we discuss the rest of the session. Specifically, we have set science-based targets, absolute reduction of scope 1 and scope 2 emissions by 65% and scope 3 emissions by 30%. For those of you that are close to this space, you might appreciate that. We've also set a goal of 100% renewable energy globally and all of our owned and operated facilities. And we're making really great progress to that 2025 target. We've got 30% of energy use of solar arrays in Brazil and Beijing. Our European distribution center has alternative sources of solar, wind, geothermal, and hydro in one facility. It's amazing. And in North America, my space, we're powering all of our offices, our entire store retail fleet, and all of our owned and operated distribution facilities with 100% renewable energy. So we do that through power purchase agreements. They're aiding that goal, as well as innovative partnerships. And two of our partnering orgs are here, Silicon Ranch and TVA. So for those of you that don't know, Nike has a very large footprint in the Mid-South. Our largest distribution center in the world is actually based just down the road in Memphis. So our North America Logistics Campus is there. And I actually brought a video that I thought we could show to talk a little bit about that partnership. So why don't you play the video?
Beautiful. Thank you, Ashley. Well, next, I'll be introducing Eric Hopstein. And Eric, as I told you earlier, is the Vice Chancellor here at Vanderbilt for administration. And he, of course, has in his purview many different things, but energy is a big one. So first, Eric, of course, I want you to tell everyone a little bit about your role and your connection to this topic, and then specifically about how Vanderbilt arrived at a carbon neutral goal, the Blue Sky Project.
Sure. Well, thank you, Eric, for that kind introduction earlier. And I also just want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to be here today with such a wonderful group of colleagues. Yeah, I do have a broad-based portfolio here, including at Vanderbilt, all aspects of the built environment. So facilities, our buildings, our energy consumption, as well as other important aspects that relate to sustainability, like campus dining, how we think about menus, how we think about waste that we generate, also the health and wellness of our community in terms of our benefit plan offerings, our human capital operation, our child and family centers, et cetera. So I like to think of my role as really promoting the best health and wellness of the Vanderbilt community. And the topic of sustainability and really environmental responsibility have always been things that are of great importance to me. I've worked in higher education my entire career. This is my fourth university after having worked at a couple in the Northeast and one in the Midwest. And when I came to Vanderbilt about 9 years ago, I saw in it just a fabulous university that had gone from really regional prominence to national prominence, and now even international prominence, and a place that was doing a lot to be a leader in the region on sustainability. However, I think it's critically important. I've always promulgated the perspective that we need to go further in terms of sustainability and the environment. And so some of the things that Vanderbilt's done in terms of leadership we were the first place in the state of Tennessee to have LEED certified buildings. I'm proud to say we have the first WELL certified space in the state of Tennessee. We have the first buildings with living building petals, and we hope to have the first fully living building certified facility in Tennessee in the not so distant future. Like Nike, we have a zero waste initiative. We've eliminated plastic bottles. We have community gardening, and composting efforts. We have federal grants to support our transportation and mobility initiatives. So I think to your question, Eric, about why a 2050 carbon neutrality goal, it was really a way for us to bring together under a broad umbrella all of the different things that Vanderbilt was already working on and further establish leadership. I'll also say that reputation and values really matter here. When we look at the expectations today of our students, our faculty, and our staff, and recruiting the very best and retaining the very best, this notion of a commitment to sustainability, which is already core to our values, this is not just a nice to have. This is an expectation that our community has of us. Our students and our community really care about our values and where we are on this. So again, like Eric said, we declared a goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. And this was partly done in the broad context of our campus planning effort that we refer to as Future VU. And then I'll say one of several offshoots of our carbon neutrality statement was to conduct a broad-based energy study a couple of years ago that was really community driven, and we called that Blue Sky. And this involved our students, our faculty, our staff, and even members of the Nashville community. And that study identified, as we suspected it would, that to offset our greenhouse gas footprint from our scope 2 emissions, which are really attributable to our electrical consumption, we'd have to look at large scale renewable energy options. So we have a lot of efforts already underway to reduce the amount of energy that's consumed by our buildings. But again, we realized that offset all of our consumption, we need to look at large scale renewable energy. So I guess I'll just summarize by saying the 2050 goal acknowledges that Vanderbilt wants to lead on the critically important topic of sustainability and the environment, that we're already doing a lot of good things. And that unifying, again, our sense of purpose under a 2050 goal should really serve to bring focus and also transparency and accountability to our efforts. And that our large scale renewable, which we'll talk about a little bit more, that's going to be a substantial part of our plans.
That's neat. Well, we'll be back to Eric shortly to talk a little bit specifically about a project that we've been working on here as part of all of those efforts. But it is an exciting time for Vanderbilt, and it manifests itself in so many different ways. I know here at the Owen School, one of the things we're excited about is in our new building, and in that process, we're really transforming this 21st Avenue side of campus with a new green space between ourselves and the Divinity School, the library, along with what we call the walk and roll path that will really be able to carry folks walking and rolling around all of Vanderbilt's perimeter. But it'll just be a really beautiful thing, and all part of Vanderbilt's commitment to really creating a great environment for the students that is eco-friendly. So I want to shift though to Aaron a little bit. And Aaron, first, as with everyone, tell us a little bit about your role, but in particular, as you get into there, talk a little bit about how the electric industry is really changing and how new programs and products are being developed in this clean energy space.
Yeah, thanks, Dean Johnson. Be glad to. So I have the pleasure to serve as the lead for TVA's Transmission and Power Supply Organization. So 1,500 highly skilled, really passionate folks distributed across the valley at the end of the day to keep the lights on, to keep homes warm, to keep our businesses running. And couldn't be more proud to be a part of this organization. In terms of the shift in the industry, you know, for really a century, the utility industry had been delivering a commodity resource. The biggest differentiator in this space was cost and reliability. Fast forward, you know, a decade and a half ago, we started hearing lots of our customers like Vanderbilt say, we want to make a difference. And through that dialogue, you know, TVA started looking at how do we start to differentiate our product offerings so that we can give customers what they want. And also, the TVA is founded under three primary premise: energy, economic development, and then environmental stewardship. So it also meets, especially in this space, our goals around environmental stewardship. So one of the programs that was born out of this was called the Green Invest Program. And the idea was to bring several organizations together that had expertise in different areas. So TVA being some level of expertise in the operation of large scale assets and integration of those assets, a Silicon Ranch who has expertise in development of these type of resources, an NES who is the distributor, so the ability to distribute that sort of power with a customer like Vanderbilt and be able to serve those needs that they've requested to meet their sustainability goals. So it's been a great program to be a part of. I think we'll get into a little bit more detail, but I'll just say Vanderbilt has been the pioneer organization for us to really lift this off the ground and put some wings under it.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Well, rounding it out, I turn to Matt Beasley, and Matt is with a very exciting company here in town called Silicon Ranch. And I'll let Matt describe the company a little bit and his role there, but then also to talk a little bit about how renewable energy, how that industry has really grown and the range of opportunities that are being created there.
Well, thank you, Dean Johnson, and I want to echo what Eric was saying earlier. It's an honor to be on this panel with you all as an Owen alum myself and Ashley's classmate in 2009. It's always fun to return and be part of the conversation and what's going on campus, virtually or in person when we can. Yeah, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Silicon Ranch. We're a Nashville-based company. I also honored to serve on the board of directors for the company. When when I speak at schools and to student groups, and last year before COVID, I actually spoke at Career Day at my high school, and I said, when I was sitting where they were sitting 23 years ago, my job didn't exist. And even when I graduated from Owen in 2009, the renewable energy industry was very different than it is today. And my company was we just celebrated our 10th anniversary last month. We began commercial operations in January of 2011. We were founded by former Governor Phil Bredesen and two members of his cabinet, his Commissioner of Economic and Community Development, Matt Kisber, and his Commissioner of Revenue, Reagan Farr. And what we're talking about today is precisely why they started that company. They realized that as more and more institutions and companies and utilities have an interest in renewable power, but it's not their core business, there was really an opportunity and a need to provide a full service solution. They founded the company on a certain set of values, including that we were going to maintain a disciplined business model. We were going to own and operate every project that we develop for the long term. And that's fairly unique in the solar industry space. There are a lot of developers out there who will sign a contract and maybe even build a project, but ultimately they're selling that on to a third party. We said this is about community development. This is about building relationships and meeting needs and entering into long-term relationships. And so they set out with that. And with that business model comes a need to do what you say you're going to do, following through and executing on the promises that you make. And another unique attribute of our business is that we've successfully built 100% of the contracts. Every single contract we've ever signed, we've built, and that matters. Trust and reliability is really important for success and future success in our business. I joined the company back in 2015, a little over 6 years ago. But for 20 years, I've had a wide range of responsibilities. Just prior to here, I moved back from London, where I was a global brand director for a big tobacco client. So this is kind of my redemption tour of sorts to be part of the renewable energy space. But every day, you know, what I tell students as well is there is a wide range of employment opportunities in the solar industry space. We hire everybody from accountants to lawyers to business development and marketing types, and just how it's hard to realize, but just how transferable experience is. I was a door-to-door salesman in college. I was an entrepreneur when I graduated from Owen. I've worked in road maintenance and big tobacco in the third world. But every day I rely on those skills to do the work that I do, and certainly pleased to be here with friends, colleagues, classmates, and 3 customer partners as well. So look forward to talking a little bit more about how we're working together with the other panelists.
Super, thank you, Matt. Well, I want to go back to Eric and have Eric, I want you to describe a little bit more about the project here at Vanderbilt, and then how that Green Invest project created a framework that other institutions could use and replicate.
Yeah, sure, Dean Johnson, thank you. So I earlier mentioned about Vanderbilt's 2050 objective and that we wanted to have 100% of Vanderbilt's annual electrical consumption be from renewable sources. And as you know, Vanderbilt resides in what's really described as a regulated region for electricity, where TVA controls the production and, in partnership with NES, the distribution of electricity across a multi-state region. And that fact, like Aaron touched on, that's led to a grid that's highly reliable and lower cost than most regions of the country. And so it was clear that in a regulated electrical market, the way forward for achieving large-scale renewable energy was obviously going to be in partnership with TVA and with Nashville Electric Service. So the way we began to work on all this several years ago now was to approach TVA, and we met with some executives to explain our objectives at a time when TVA at the moment did not yet really have a renewable energy program that was at sufficient scale to meet VU's goal of 100% renewable electricity. And we were rapidly introduced to a range of team members at TVA who work on renewable energy solutions. And we were very impressed with their commitment to partnering with Vanderbilt. To get smart, we did look at some large-scale renewable solutions outside of the TVA region in either partially regulated or unregulated electricity markets. But we were always committed to partnering with TVA for some of the reasons my colleagues mentioned, really the economic, the social, and the leadership impact of creating the opportunity for large-scale renewable energy right here in the TVA region. And as Aaron mentioned, these efforts led to the establishment of what was a new legal framework that's now called Green Invest. And I'm really proud of that because the Green Invest framework served to accomplish Vanderbilt's goals, but more importantly, it created a framework that TVA and NES can use, and TVA can really promulgate across the entirety of the region and can serve other companies and large employers besides Vanderbilt. So this framework is really, the Green Invest is basically, I like to describe it as a tripartite, handshake between, in this case, TVA, Nashville Electric Service, and the client, Vanderbilt, to identify large-scale renewable energy projects in the TVA region that are going to be at a scale sufficient to offset your annual consumption goals. And again, what I'm proud of is that we entered that agreement and subsequently created what we think of as a couple of tranche amendments. This is where, under the broad Green Invest framework, where we've agreed now to find that renewable energy, we then work with TVA on identifying specific projects within the region. And we've identified two, one in Bell Buckle, Tennessee, that will come on in 2022. That's a project that I think it's safe to say, Matt, you and your team are working on right now. And then a second project in Tullahoma, Tennessee, that will come online in 2023. So when those two projects are completed, Vanderbilt will be able to rightfully claim that 100% of its electricity consumption annually is coming from green sources. But again, even more importantly is the fact that those kinds of arrangements are now more broadly available. And I want to thank TVA for the great partnership on this. It really is a leadership move. And I'll make just one more comment regarding the second tranche, the Tullahoma tranche. This is an interesting little sub-story. After Vanderbilt helped establish Green Invest and entered into an arrangement for large-scale energy in Bell Buckle, Tennessee, which offset about 70% of our annual consumption, we knew we would need to subscribe to a second installation. And meanwhile, the mayor's office of Nashville, Tennessee contacted Vanderbilt and myself to find out what we had just done because it sounded really intriguing. We explained the objectives and the approach to the mayor's office, and I'm proud to say that second tranche that Vanderbilt entered in Tullahoma that will complete our goal of 100% renewable energy was also really, if you will, co-subscribed to by the mayor's office to reach some of their own goals. So I feel like we've hit everything we would possibly want to hit. Vanderbilt has achieved its goal. We've created a scalable and replicable framework that's easy to understand in partnership with TVA and NES, and we're promulgating this across the region and already getting other important clients to sign up for this.
That's great. Well, let me flip it back to Matt now, and Matt, explain how Silicon Ranch fits into both this project but the overall ecosystem, and what that means for folks who want to invest and diversify their portfolio.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's everybody has a part to play, and our approach has always been consistent, whether we're working with TVA or with other utilities across the country. It sounds cliche, but we're looking for win-win-win solutions. We're not trying to get in between the utility and their customers and kind of box the utility out of the picture. Rather, we want to work really hand in hand with TVA. And for years, to Eric's point, there wasn't a viable option in the Valley. For 3 years, I actually served as president of our industry association for the Tennessee Valley, and we were working very closely with TVA, saying, as Aaron pointed out, one of the 3 legs of your mission is economic development, and we were seeing not just here in the Valley but across the country more and more companies and institutions like Vanderbilt with real legitimate goals, and for them to be able to realize those goals in the Valley, TVA was going to have to be part of the solution. And so the Green Invest program, really, we applauded TVA. The industry gave our Solar Champion Award last year to one of Aaron's colleagues who really was behind the development and the promotion of that program at TVA. And so for projects like the one in Bedford County and the one in Moore County that will serve Vanderbilt, among others, are a partnership with the retail customers, but also with TVA. So Silicon Ranch, our contract is actually directly with TVA, and TVA runs the procurement, and then they marry the projects that are the most executable, shall we say. You know, TVA certainly does not want to just award any project based on price. They want to make sure that whoever the counterparty is going to deliver on behalf of these important, trusted, valuable partners like Vanderbilt and the city of Nashville. So we're excited. Certainly, the Bedford County project, when we announced it a little over a year ago, it really was landmark. That word gets thrown around a lot, but apart from Facebook and Google, Vanderbilt's leadership really helped, I think, codify a lot of the principles that underpin the Green Invest program, and set a signal not only to other institutions within the Valley, but other universities across the country, that it is possible to work with your utility provider and with industry to meet your goals. And then we were really excited to help round out and further support Vanderbilt's goals through the project in Moore County. So the Bedford County project is a 35 megawatt AC facility. Like Eric said, it'll come online in the fall of 2022. And that is exclusively with Vanderbilt. And then the Moore County project is we haven't formally announced the full project yet, but when we do, it will be the largest project ever announced in the state of Tennessee, 200 megawatts, serving not only the city of Nashville and Vanderbilt, but a couple of players to be named later, shall we say. But really excited. That'll come online in the fall of 2023. And again, credit to Vanderbilt for its leadership and having these ambitious goals, and for TVA for being a customer-centric utility that listened and designed a program to help them realize those goals ahead of schedule. So,
and Matt, just stick with you for one more
Sure.
minute. Can you unpack what does that Bedford project look like? Does Silicon Ranch own land? Do they own solar panels? Do they manage that?
Yeah.
Just maybe one
No,
more
thank you. Yeah,
bite of how does this actually work?
It's a great question. So we are a developer, owner, operator. In industry parlance, we're an independent power producer. So we develop the project. One of the things that makes us unique, because we own and operate all of our projects, we prefer to own the land, and that really is an important part of our business. It's because we want to be long-term members of the communities where we operate as well. And a lot of places around the country, we're the top taxpayer in the community. We continue to remain an active member of those communities as well. And that's another piece of this story, is that economic multiplier effect of Vanderbilt's commitment to using locally sourced renewables. We're investing millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in these communities, and Bedford County and Moore County will benefit from those investments. We have a construction arm that will typically subcontract with large, we call them EPC firms, to procure the equipment. We source the modules, we buy the land, we work with our engineering team to design the project. We coordinate very closely with TVA and whoever the local power company is on the interconnection side of it. And then we fund the project. We finance the project. No capital investment is required by TVA or the community or Vanderbilt. It's 100% funded by Silicon Ranch and our financial partners. And then once we build it and we commission the plant, we then are responsible for owning and operating and maintaining those facilities and making sure that the power is delivered just as it's budgeted and contracted. And one of the things I always say, I learned, one of the best things I learned at Owen is the alignment of incentives. And our incentives are perfectly aligned with TVA and with the retail customers, and that that power production is revenue to us, and we want to make sure that plant is continuously performing. So we've got boots on the ground to maintain. We have a network operations center. It's not quite as impressive as what Aaron has at TVA, but it's in our office in downtown Nashville, where we're monitoring. We've got over 140 power plants in more than 15 states, from New York to California. We're monitoring all of those in real time and dispatching as necessary our maintenance crews. We'll be doing the same thing on these plants here in Tennessee.
And I can't help myself. You mentioned the word investors. Are there investors in individual projects like Bedford, or are they a broader set of investors that you're talking about?
So our investors, Silicon Ranch as a company has its established set of investors. Many folks know that Royal Dutch Shell is our largest individual shareholder. They're a minority shareholder. And then another institutional shareholder is TD Greystone, pension fund out of Canada, and a local group called Mountain Group Partners. One of the principals there was my professor when I was at Owen, Byron Smith. So and Byron was really one of the folks who led me to Silicon Ranch. So again, one of my happy consequences of my time at Owen. We do have financial partners who will help with construction lending. And then one of the features of the renewable energy industry is the tax equity piece. And so we work with leading financial institutions who will either absorb their own tax equity appetite, or they'll syndicate to other companies or institutions that have tax equity appetite. And there are various financing structures that help facilitate those projects. But we own and operate all of our portfolio and don't take on unique individual investors for specific projects.
Got it. Thank you. So now back around to Aaron. Here's a project that you guys are part of, but you're working with other organizations. What have you seen that has made them successful in bringing renewable energy into their portfolios?
Yeah, it's a great question. I should have mentioned at the onset, also proud Owen alum, a couple of years after Matt and Ashley, 2011. But yeah, great question. And to just put it into context, so Vanderbilt, the new to the world renewable energy that they've helped put online would be the equivalent of the power to serve 45,000 homes. What this program and further development of this program with other customers has done is we now have commitment in the queue for an additional 1.6 million homes equivalent power. So that's real commitment that we have planned to put online, and what we are expecting. So what we're preparing for the market demand that we see over the next decade is doubling that. So for us, it's really thinking through how do we effectively integrate this new power source into our mix, because we also want to ensure that we're always keeping the lights on. So reliability is right up there with our goals of sustainability. And we continue to be able to literally put Vanderbilt as the poster child as we talk with industries across the valley, as we talk with potential industries that are interested in siting in the valley. This is becoming a real differentiator for us than some other regions. And, in multiple occasions, lots of, let's say, big industry, they look at several things. So historically, they've always looked at reliability and cost. Now they ask, do you have a sustainability product? And do you have broadband? So these are now becoming the 4 key levers that we are focused on across TVA, ensuring that we're developing as differentiators in what is becoming a much more competitive marketplace for big and advanced industry.
That's great. Well, as I said at the onset, we're really kind of looking at this subject really from the perspective of an energy user and the decision makers within energy users like Vanderbilt. But I want to come back around to Ashley at Nike and really ask her, what does sustainability leadership look like at Nike?
That's an excellent question. We're in a value chain that's global and highly complex, and we're the largest company in our industry. So we're definitely focused on doing our part in elevating sustainability. We think that really comes to the how, and the how is we're improving our operations, aligning incentives, as a lot of the panelists already mentioned. That's critical to have it aligned both internally and with partners, and collaboration for a collective action and impact. It can't be done without the collaboration. So, I mean, just to highlight a little bit of what we're doing around improving our operations, we're really taking that value chain approach with our suppliers or manufacturers, and then our own onshore geo distribution, enabling alternative renewable power and energy sources, particularly in Vietnam and China, where we see some regulatory support for these alternative uses. We've doubled our factory solar capacity in the last year and are aiming to double that this year. So again, what Aaron was saying, there's a lot of potential and upside around this area. We're also adopting alternative fuels, piloting with Maersk around how we move product to some of our key trade lanes. And some of these alternative fuels are substantially more efficient. In one lane alone, it's an 84% reduction of carbon emissions. And so that improvement of our operations has material impact both to our bottom line, as well as our sustainability goals and targets. Around the area of incentives, I think we're redefining what responsible leadership looks like. We're tying our executive compensation at Nike to the progress we're making around diversity and inclusion and protecting the planet specifically. So I think that is really putting our money where our mouth is, as well as making sure that we're aligning all elements within our business to the same ultimate goals. And that ties to the collaboration within our industry to accelerate change. We partner with the UN, the Fashion Pact, Sustainable Apparel Coalition, to have shared goals around industry, waste, labor, and renewable energy policies. There's no use to compete here. We're all in the same industry, and we all have ultimately the same goals. We're trying to stand up early as founding members for entities and initiatives that we think are leading. So Sustainable Air Freight Alliance, Clean Cargo, Transform to Net Zero as examples are initiatives that are promoting business transformation that we think is needed to have better business practice and limit global warming. And then policy. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the importance of policy to drive climate action. Nike's a very active member in Ceres. We advocate for stronger climate and clean energy policies, state and federal level in the US. And we also support renewable energy use globally, mainly through partnerships like the Fashion Industry Charter, et cetera. So I think we are taking a leading role in sustainability. We definitely aim to do better. We aim to scale better, but we're hoping to use our influence to help others do the same.
That's great. Well, I'm going to turn to the audience for some questions here in a moment, but I have one that I just want to toss out, maybe start with Eric, but then we can have anyone else jump into is, what are some of the real impediments, for an organization like Vanderbilt or Nike or whatever that want to move to a clean energy portfolio? What are some of the real impediments that they're going to find?
Well, Eric, maybe I'll answer that in a little bit more broad-based way than just the impediments to the clean energy, but sustainability and carbon neutrality objectives more broadly speaking. I think, at Vanderbilt, we have a group of people who are generally, in my view, quite progressive on these topics. However, having lived in various other regions of the country, I will note that in my view, there may be pockets of resistance that in some cases are based on less of a shared knowledge base and sort of lexicon or understanding of the topics. I think that's another really core element of leadership. I think moments like these and lots of other opportunities at a place like a university can serve to kind of level set in a fact-based, objective way about the challenges we face as a, not just as an organization, but as frankly a world in terms of these topics. So I personally find the biggest impediment being an attitude in some cases of, oh, that topic is just one that irritates me for whatever set of reasons. And there I like to often, battle that with an emphasis on what I often think of as the co-benefits. It's like, if you don't want to buy into the sustainability or the climate change sort of scientific arguments, understand that if many of the changes that we're talking about, including a cleaner energy supply, serve to enhance the health and well-being of the community simultaneously. And those sort of co-benefits sometimes become a way to get people excited.
Maybe if I could chime in on an impediment that I see, but definitely an area of opportunity that is accelerating, is really around, frankly, data and understanding. I think that in order to minimize environmental footprint or even set out a very clear strategy and targets, it really comes with understanding what the impacts are, where the business opportunities are, where the social opportunities are, and then having that information to really drive progressive conversations. Second to that is really finding those partners that can help scale quickly. I think that the next 10 years of this industry, it's going to be an exciting ride to see what comes. There's a lot of new technologies that have yet to scale, that are probably yet to really be prototyped and put in front of an organization like a Vanderbilt or like a Nike. So I think that there's just an incredible runway that we have, but it does come back with understanding what we're trying to solve for.
I'm sure Matt and Aaron, I mean, both of you out selling these kind of solutions in a certain way, you also often hear lots of impediments along the way in those kinds of deals. You want to describe what you've been seeing?
Well, Aaron, I'll jump in real quick and first make a plug for, I know Professor Vandenberg was on the previous panel, and I would put a plug in for his book, Beyond Politics. That's what I've said since joining this industry. Our company was founded by a former Democratic governor. I'm the son of a former Republican Party chairman, and I have always believed that this is not about political ideology. It's about, today, certainly more than ever before, it's about economics. It's about economic development. It's about energy independence. It's about a lot of values that cross party lines, ideological lines. We talk about that facts have a half-life. And what is true, particularly in our space that is so dynamic and fast moving, what was true 6 months ago isn't true today. What's true today is not going to be true in a year's time. And where there is opposition, to Eric's point, to Ashley's point, a lot of time it's founded in misinformation or in old information. And the fact is today, solar is the lowest cost form of new generation. And it is not just about the environmental benefits. Very rarely am I having active conversations about climate change with my customers. It's about the lowest cost form of energy, and environmental benefits and the community impact. Those are nice too, but it's alignment of incentives. We keep coming back to this. You can have your cake and eat it too with where renewables are today. So that's I think an important part of the narrative and the discussion with folks who haven't quite yet bought in and don't know why.
And I'll just add, I think I've gotten a great lesson through this evolution. You think back to, I can recall learning about them at Owen, companies like Kodak, companies like Blockbuster. And you read those case studies and you think, how in the world did they not see this coming? How did they not transform? And I will tell you, I have seen it internally. It is very difficult. It takes customers like Vanderbilt and Nike being loud and being demanding. It takes companies like Silicon Ranch really being there with the product to help enable this. And it's taken a whole lot of leadership courage internal to TVA to stand up and say, wait a second, this industry is changing. If we don't change, we will be a case study.
That's sobering. Thank you. So anyone who has a question, feel free to post them into chat. I see one here from Milt Capps, and Milt is wondering if there are other companies that are emulating the Silicon Ranch model.
Well, everybody likes to say that they're unique, and that's not always the case. And certainly there are some other companies. One of the things that we are proud of is, as I said at the outset, a very disciplined business model. There are all kinds of business models in the solar space. There are a lot of developers out there. There are very few IPPs, independent power producers. There are some large competitors that we see, the usual suspects in various markets where we compete. Many of them are owned by investor-owned utilities or other entities. Very few that are privately held independent power producers. There are a couple, but certainly none quite like us in the Tennessee Valley. So we're proud to be the largest IPP based locally here in the Tennessee Valley, and we're also proud to have pioneered many of the markets in the Southeast. We did the first utility scale project in Tennessee, in Mississippi, in Georgia, in Arkansas, opening up new markets. The Southeast is one of the fastest growing regions in the country, but when our three founders founded Silicon Ranch 10 years ago, there was none whatsoever. And Aaron can tell you there were folks at TVA that thought they'd never get to 1 megawatt in the Valley of solar. And today, I think they're well on pace to 5,000 of them, if not more. So it's been an exciting ride. And as Ashley says, the next 10 years are going to be even more exciting.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too. We see a tremendous responsibility we have to ensure that we are partnering with folks that do three things. Cost is important, quality is paramount, and we also believe aligned values is very important as well. We are all here to serve the people of the Valley, to improve the standards of living of the people that live here. And I will tell you, lots are out there trying to emulate, but very few meet those thresholds.
Thank you.
That's great. Well, Will Slagle has a question targeted at with Ashley at Nike, but I think it's a broad question that we all kind of address. He's asking about these upstream decisions in the supply chain or supply of anything, in particular for Nike. With Nike's move to these zero initiatives, and reduce the emissions. One of the big pieces of that is what's happening upstream with suppliers, and particularly around material technology that's going to help decarbonize its material, whether it be polyester or cotton or leather or so on. And really wondering how can Nike get involved with that, or are they getting involved, or how are they getting involved? And some examples of what's happening with those challenges upstream.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it goes back to, again, being open to partner and realizing that in order to create this systemic change and these innovations that are needed to actually reach our goals and continue to evolve our business, it requires partnership. And it's not always something that we can design on our own. As far as upstream material examples, one that comes to mind is really a performance material that we actually engineered called fly leather. It's got the look and feel, kind of even the smell of leather, but it's made with 50% recycled fiber, as well as combination of synthetic material. And that was done in partnership with some of our leading material partners, as well as some NGOs that are supporting us in the chemistry space. And some of those goals are real advocates that we have there, as well as even our producers. So we worked with our manufacturers that use heavily and produce our traditional leather footwear, and got their inputs into this new material use. It has lower carbon emissions, lower water use. It's better for the climate, but to Matt's point earlier, it's also better business sense, and it's less waste than traditional cut and sew methods of full grain leather. So it's a really great win-win-win, and we see that in polyester, we see it in cotton as well. But it really does kind of take creative thinking and that partnership to bring technologies. And then just the last point I want to mention around the scale potential is that this is where the industry partnerships come in. So obviously, we do want to continue to be our leading brand for the industry of footwear and apparel, but there are elements around make and materials that we need to share. And we've openly shared some of the material indexes that we use, like the Higg index that helps designers pick more sustainable product. That's now industry standard, and that was something that Nike created, but is now open for all.
That's great. And I think, you know, you all have been hitting on this, every one of you from different angles around these incentive alignments. You know, Will was really wondering, you know, who will bear the premium for sustainable materials that, you know, particularly in some transition. And it sounds like what you're saying is, Ashley, is this particular case, the example you're giving you, again, the economics are going to drive it. It's not that someone has to bear this premium to get there.
Yeah, I think the green premium is not always an additional cost. You know, oftentimes it really is a better business decision.
It comes back to that half-life. It may have been true even in the very near recent past, but same thing for renewables. It doesn't require a premium anymore.
That's great. Well, another question coming in from Rabo Garba, and he's wondering whether TVA, you know, in their own generation processes is working towards a zero carbon mix, and what will it take to get there?
Yeah, so the simple answer is yes. The little bit more complex answer is, so to date, progress. We are the cleanest utility in the Southeast, third cleanest in the United States. We've reduced our carbon emissions by 60% from 2005 levels, which is the typical benchmark. We currently have a plan to get to 70% by 2030. We're to your previous point around who's going to pay for that. That plan to 2030 to get to 20% is with no rate increases. So we're able to do that through products programs like we're talking about today, through other investments that we're making across the valley. We have defined a path to 80%. And then we are really investing now in research and development around some things like hydrogen use, fuel cells, carbon sequestration. You know, the near-term path is we've got to move away from coal. We've got to lean on natural gas as sort of a bridge strategy to work out the final couple decades so that we can then transition those natural gas facilities to hydrogen, to carbon sequestration, to some other fuel source that is carbon zero. So it's absolutely in the horizon, just working out the plans.
That's great. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, panel. This has been a really great discussion. I see more questions coming in, but I think we're going to have to call it at this point for the day. But I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, we have recorded this session, and so if you didn't catch it all or you want to pass it along to others, it'll be available shortly. And we're excited to put that out to the general alumni base over the next few weeks and months to make these kind of exciting conversations really readily available to all Vanderbilt alumni. And also to point out that at 2:15, we have another session coming on, again, thinking about this portfolio issue, but thinking about it now more from the point of view of kind of a larger unit. And we're thinking kind of more state or region. And we're can't help but anchor ourselves down in some of the excitement in Texas over the last few weeks. And so we have a number of folks coming in from that have a point of view on that situation, and providers, natural gas being part of that, Aaron, but also the energy providers, and also the financiers of creating a great mix that's available. So keeping with that topic of creating reliable, clean energy for all Americans. Thank you so much, panelists. It's been great. And I'm so delighted that we had such a great panel today, and look forward to this conversation as we go forward.